national song for England. The sort of English backlash song, you know. Go home, Scot sort of song. Ireland, get out of Liverpool. You know. Down with Welsh power. We don't have black power, we have white power, but that's a detergent. We hope that all true-born English men and women in our audience will join in the chorus, and if you don't have the good fortune to be true-born or English or a man or a woman, then I hope you will join in as a mark of ordinary, decent respect. Always remember, if it hadn't been for the English, you'd all be Spanish. This is a song calculated to offend practically everybody, this song. The English are best. I wouldn't give tuppence for all the rest. Typical English understatement. The rottenest bits of those islands are ours. We've left in the hands of 3 unfriendly powers. Examine the Irishman, Welshman or Scot. You'll find he's a stinker as likely as not. Okay, it's a broad brick, the Scotsman is mean, as we're all well aware, and bony and blotchy and covered with hair. He eats salted porridge, he works all the day, and he hasn't got bishops to show him the way. The English are best. I wouldn't give tuppence for all the rest. Or hit me old mother with a shillelagh. The Irishman now our contempt is beneath. He sleeps in his boots and he lies in his teeth. He blows up policemen, or so I have heard, and blames it on Cromwell and William III. The English are noble, the English are nice, and worth any other at double the price. Oh, you do some Welsh.
Vote for Lloyd George, Yakida.
The Welshman's dishonest, he cheats when he can, and little and dark, more like monkey than man. He works underground with a lamp in his hat, and he sings
far too loud,
far too often, and flat. And crossing the channel, one cannot say much for the French, or the Spanish,
or the Danish,
the Dutch,
or the Germans are German,
the Russians are red, and the Greeks and Italians eat garlic in bed. The English are moral, the English are good, and clever and modest and misunderstood. Not forgetting, in case we've omitted a few, Australians, Asians and Africans too. Americans ditto, all over the place, regardless of colour, religion or race. The English are best. I wouldn't give tuppence for all the rest. It's not that you're wicked or naturally bad. It's knowing you're foreign that's driving you mad. Oh, the English are all that a nation should be, and the fanard of the English is Donald,
Michael,
Donald,
Michael,
and me.
Hello, how we doing? Isn't that good? That's one of the funniest things I've seen. I don't know the first time I ever watched Flanders and Swan. I think my dad got me into it when I was a little kid, the hippopotamus song or something. And then when I heard the lyrics to that song, I was howling laughing. I think it's an absolute classic. And after my last 2 videos are a little bit, what should we say, humorously scathing about our neighbours, I thought that was a good one to start with. It's a classic tune, that. You know what else is funny? This was back in the day when, you know, you were allowed to have a sense of humour. I mean, have you seen the lyrics to that song? I'll have to look them up for you. Obviously, you miss it. You don't get to hear it all when you listen to a song, do you? Let me try and find some words to it. The English Are Best by Flanders and Swan. It's a classic. It says something about the Scotsman. It's like he's all boneless and blotchy, and the Welshman's more monkey than man or something. And it's absolutely class. Like, but again, it was back in the day when you were allowed to have a sense of humour about these things. Here we are. Look at this one. So the words to it, it's called A Song of Patriotic Prejudice. Back in the day when people had a sense of humour about, you know, life and ripping the piss out of each other. The words are as follows, right? I can't do it as well as Flanders and Swan, but it says the English are best. I wouldn't give tuppence for all of the rest. The rottenest bits of these islands of ours we've left in the hands of three unfriendly powers. Examine the Irishman, Welshman, or Scot. You'll find he's a stinker as likely as not. Then he does his little Scots bit there. The Scotsman is mean, as we're all well aware. He's bony and blotchy and covered with hair. He eats salted porridge. He works all the day, and he hasn't got bishops to show him the way. It's that is a classic. I'll put the actual song in the chat so you can all listen to it at your leisure, because that is a classic that's well worth a listen. Oh, hang on. I think my mate's come in. There he is. All right, mate. How you doing?
Doing well, Bootneck. That song's class.
Oh, you've heard it before, eh?
No, I haven't. I was just listening to it as I was waiting here, and the lyrics are great. Did you read the part about the Irish, like the Irish man sleeps in his boots, lies through his teeth. He blows up policemen and blames it on Cromwell and William III. Just brilliant. Absolutely genius.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm going to share it in the chat, because I have no idea when I stumbled across that. I think it was about a decade ago. I listened to the Hippo song they did. They did a lot of kids' songs when I was a bairn. And then when I grew up and got back onto YouTube, there was a documentary. I'll have to look for it. Really good documentary. And I think they released it when he died, Michael. And then I watched that, and then it went from there. But that song is a beauty. Like, the lyrics to all of it's hilarious. It says, the Welshman's dishonest. He cheats when he can. He's little and dark, more like monkey than man. It's brilliant stuff. Anyway, we'll talk about them later. How have you been? It's been ages since we've chatted. First things first, what I'll say is, you forced me to watch The Little Mermaid last time we spoke, so I've still got a chip on my shoulder about that.
Yeah, that's not the worst thing I've done, forcing someone to watch The Little Mermaid. I mean, I didn't force anybody to watch Snow White. That would have been far worse.
Oh, I've heard. So what we'll do is we'll do 10 minutes about your stuff, and then we'll talk a bit of politics, because it'll be a refreshing change for you. You don't do much politics. Wisely, you avoid politics on YouTube.
It would be really, just really depressing and blackpilling. And I know why. Like I did a video recently where all I did was criticize the idea that the government shouldn't murder sick people, right? Now you would think that people can agree with that. No, I had these fuckers in the comments scathing. You want to force people to die in horrible pain. You want to torture people to death. And it's like, fuck me. This must be what doing politics on YouTube is like. Like, you do daily politics and people just accuse you of the most insane shit.
It's terrible. I've said this loads of times. Honestly, Twitter's a train wreck. And you can't even defend the right, really, because they love the purity spiral. Like, I reckon I get as much abuse from mega right-wing people as I do from mega left-wing people. I think social media has just totally destroyed the political debate. It doesn't happen anymore, does it? It's just name-calling, basically.
And then you do get the like, even on my British ads video, there were a lot of people in the comments saying things like, it's the Jews. He won't say it because he knows it's the Jews and YouTube will ban him. Or it's the point he had people, so many people in the comments saying, it's the Jews are doing it all. So you'll get people from the extremes coming in as well,
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, I mean, you don't really need to do political content, because by your film review content, essentially, you can tell a large amount of your political beliefs, because it's because strange.
Everything's political now. Everything's political now.
Yeah.
If you're going to be honest about any piece of media or any piece of art or propaganda, as it is nowadays more often than not, if you're just going to be honest about it and talk and criticize all facets of it, not skirting around any issues, you're forced to be political. Like The Last of Us. I'm doing The Last of Us at the minute. It's the fucking
obviously. Yeah.
It's the zombie apocalypse, and you've got women in positions of military leadership making fucking awful decisions, by the way, And I don't need to be a fucking military expert to know this. Like you would watch this stuff and you'd laugh your bollocks off. Like they're launching operations with full units with zero reconnaissance, like nothing, just absolutely no intelligence at all. Stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? You know, the last realistic depiction of post-apocalyptic society in cinema was Mad Max Fury Road, because what really happens is a big fat hard bloke has a harem and everybody does as they're told because he'll crush the skull if they disagree with him. That's what actually happens. But I've been watching your reviews. Apparently, £100 woman takes over and all the blokes just do as they're told.
Exactly. And then you've got them, and people, they'll buy it as well, like I criticize Thunderbolts for its really dated girl boss fight choreography.
Yeah.
And it's basically a woman going down a corridor beating up men one by one, and they all attack her one by one. And even if people could sort of buy that 10 years ago when Scarlett Johansson was doing it, it's just too dated now. It's been parodied on YouTube. Do something fresh, do something original, like, she traps them in a room and she goes around and takes them out stealth style, something like that. Just something different.
Well, they're done by people who've never been in a fight before. I love Jackie Chan. When I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I absolutely loved him. We used to go to this Pakistani shop in a little scruffy building downtown in Borough and buy the VHSs, because they were harder to get back then. And I had every Jackie Chan film because I loved them.
Oh, Jackie Chan's fight choreography is fucking
amazing,
beautiful when you watch it today. It's incredible.
He somehow makes it look believable, and this is the skill he's got, because anyone who's actually been in a street fight or something, in real life, even a professional boxer, if someone like Mayweather was in a nightclub in Middlesbrough, he'd knock 3 people out and then everyone would just swarm him and then he'd be on the deck getting a good shoeing. That's what actually happens. Yeah. And he had this talent the park fight in Police Story 2, where he sort of uses the terrain so well to his advantage and he leaps about nimbly. And he somehow makes it believable. And he's even good in his old age. I mean, you must have watched The Foreigner. Did you watch The Foreigner?
Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. I still, when I'm drunk, me and my missus laugh about it and I do the voice where he goes, he jumped off the roof like a fucking monkey.
Oh, Pierce Brosnan's brilliant in that. He goes, I have no idea who killed his daughter. He basically just plays Jerry Adams.
Basically,
really good.
Yeah, totally. What a class film, though. There's nothing better than watching a pension-age Jackie Chan beating up middle-aged Northern Irish blokes. For some reason, it's just fantastic to watch.
That's what the British Army got wrong. It's why they couldn't beat the IRA in 30 years. They didn't use Jackie Chan.
Yeah, this is an old Chinese bloke. Yeah, they keep look after themselves, don't they? That's why. So before we talk a bit of politics, just tell me one thing, because I all I do is work now. I work, and when I've got time off, I make YouTube videos. I haven't watched a film in months. Aye. If I watch anything I'm a proper I've turned into my granddad. If I watch anything, it's pre 2010. I'll download an old film that I enjoyed in the 90s or the 90s, and I'll watch that. It's shocking. I think if I was to pick something from the last, 15 years that I enjoyed, I'd say Upgrade. Did you ever watch Upgrade?
Oh man, Upgrade is fucking class.
Yeah,
that's actually I was about to bring up a list because this is a video I'm gonna do at some point in the near future. It's basically great post 2010 movies because there are so few of them. You can do them all in one video. And I've got a wee list somewhere.
Oh, nice one. You'll have to shoot me on my email so I can actually watch them, because I am shocking. I watch nothing new. It's got to the point where anything from the last 10 years, I don't even give it a chance.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you, because you're so likely to hit upon shite that, what's the, I was watching, me and my wife were watching this Netflix movie with, what's his fucking name? He's a British actor. Hold on.
There's not that many of them. Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. Yeah, it was Tom Hardy. He was in this Netflix original movie where he just plays a cliche. He plays, the grizzled cop who drinks coffee at 11 p.m. and doesn't get any sleep, and he's always got a 5 o'clock shadow, and he's very gruff and he's very rude. Just that kind of cliche. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it kind of does a knockoff John Wick fight style where 80 people get shot in the club, but there's no real consequences to it.
Yeah.
And he's going after. I think he's trying to track down the mayor's son because he's corrupt. Something like that. It's fucking bollocks. It's just Netflix slop. Do you know what I mean? The shooting scenes are all right. They're a bit. They're fun enough. They're semi-entertaining, but as a movie, like I was watching High Plains Drifter the other night, and Clint Eastwood. It's a Clint Eastwood movie. It's an old western, and in the first 10 minutes, he shoots 3 fellas and rapes a woman. Like, now you're not going to get that today. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they do lean into tropes now, and they've got no character at all. Like the best characters were always that sort of anti-hero types, weren't they? And you know what I think the problem is here? I've long had this theory about this, right? The problem is critics and highly educated people get taught a lot of theory that doesn't really exist. The normies, for example, the normies always loved Lord of the Rings, and it was ignored by the critics for decades. Like by the time it made it onto the sort of best 100 books in Britain list, I read all about this in I think it was as late as the late 70s. It was about 77. It'd been ignored for 2 decades by the critical class because the critics were all like, oh no, there's no depth to any of this. They're coming out with the gibberish that they do. And I think the highly educated types have ignored the basic tenets of telling a good story, which is to get you to like and empathise with the character and root for them. And they don't. They make them annoying as fuck. Like, they're always smug and arrogant.
But that's the thing.
About it go on.
No, what were you saying?
I was going to say, you were talking about it in your review of The Last of Us. Like, if someone offers a sincere apology, you should take it because that's what normal empathic people think. But desperately sticking to this narrative that a woman has to be tough all the time. They never want to shag anyone, male. And they refuse to act like normal women do, or even normal people do, which is sort of be graceful and nice. They think being a prick all the time is I don't know, strong. And wasn't that a famous quote by Oscar Wilde or something? Where stupid people think being boorish makes them look sort of masculine. And I think that's the rabbit hole they've gone down. But that's what.
I think I know what it is. The Oscar Wilde quote's probably something like, "Rudeness is the fool's idea of
strength or something." Yeah.
Hold on. I fucking need to know this now. Oscar Wilde, rudeness quote.
Well, that's what it is. That's definitely what it is.
He's got too many quotes.
Yeah, well, he has. He did like a quote, old Oscar. That's what it is, though. Definitely, these over.
It's probably something like rudeness. Rudeness is an idiot's idea of strength. It's probably something like that.
Something like that, yeah. And I think that's what it is. There's also the nepotism argument. I've told you my theory about that. Whenever I see something terrible now, they're always related. They're always related to someone who was actually talented. So you're like, if I see something awful, straight away I look who the writer was, and then I go on Google and I have a poke around. And I'm telling you, the amount of times I've found it where it'll be like the niece or the nephew of someone who actually had ability. So the likes of Lucas and Spielberg and them, they got there during this sort of golden era where they got there with talent and ability. And now it seems like all these writers' rooms are just packed with the kids, the nephews, the nieces of people that actually knew what they were fucking doing. So I think that plays a big role as well. But they just don't understand normal people. A good example would be David Gemmell's one of my favourite writers. And Louis L'Amour as well. He's good. And a lot of people used to slag them off as if, have you froze? Are you still there? Are you just extremely still when you're listening?
No,
yeah,
I'm just listening.
You're just listening. They used to say that their stuff was like, the critics would say things like, these stories are all primary colours. They're very simplistic. The hero's always a sort of flawed, aging man and blah, blah, blah. And they'd slag them off all the time, but they were undeniably entertaining. And even him, he's got a huge following in the UK, David Gemmell, because his stories are entertaining. You root for the hero, and the root cause is that it's that you watch this stuff and you don't root for the hero. And I think an element of it is this political thing that the postmodernist crap where they don't want anyone to be a villain and anyone to be a goodie. And ultimately, that's what you want from your entertainment, isn't it? It doesn't change from when you're 8 years old.
It is, but their morality is so twisted now, the people who write this shite, that when they do set out to create a villain-hero dynamic, they end up doing the opposite. because they're such complete wankers themselves, and their worldview is so fucking twisted.
Yeah.
You know, I give an example of it I did a little review of the Concord video games secret level episode they made. So Concord was this video game. It cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and it
Watched
was
it all the way through, mate.
It was body positive, and it was absurd. They had these huge, hideous, fuck ugly characters, and they were expecting people to play as them. And like a PlayStation apparently thought it was going to be the next Star Wars. Fucking absurd. And I think its player peak on Steam was like 800 or something. It lost, I don't know, $400 million it cost Sony.
Yeah.
And they made an episode of it as a tie-in, and it was the only piece of media that they ever made outside of the video game. So I reviewed it. Like, I'm the only person who reviewed it. And in it, the hero, right, is this black, like Rasta-haired, lesbian, hairy armpit pilot, and she's she's the most insufferable wanker.
Yeah, all the time.
Like, she's just horrible to everyone. Like, they rescue her, and the first thing she says to them is something like, "Why did you get a getaway pilot? I'm the best pilot in this side of the galaxy."
Yeah,
it's like, what? Love that they didn't even know if you would be conscious, or if you think you could have had both your arms broken in interrogation or something, and you're just bitching and moaning, and she's getting in everybody's face, and she refuses to call the getaway pilot by his name. She calls him new guy very dismissively to sort of, to mark her territory and mark herself out as a figure of authority. Fuck me, she's insufferable. But in the minds of these writers, she's the hero because she ticks the most intersectional boxes.
Yeah, that's exactly
That's
it.
all she needs to do.
Yeah.
And the villain. The villain, the white guy, is the only guy who says anything that even vaguely resembling sense in the episode, and he's the villain because he's white, basically.
I know. Did you ever see that Russell T Davies geezer who said, we all had a problem with having Davros in a wheelchair, so now Davros is like a gym bro.
Yeah,
you couldn't make it up, could you? And this is the thing. I'm always telling them this, like, I'm an old school. I get mocked ruthlessly by my audience because most of them are much more right-wing than I am. I'm merely sort of centre-right at this point. I was never a nationalist sort of right-winger, but they've created this dynamic where you're not allowed, because they're like a cult, you're not allowed to be in the middle. You have to pick a side. And if you're going to make me pick a side, I'll hold my nose and go with the right-wingers who at least look like they're enjoying their lives, instead of these prudish fucking prigs on the left, like they do my head in. And if anything, you could even say that this is all part of it, right? They've always said the entertainment industry and the arts are an integral part of it. And maybe that's why we lost so badly for so long, because the right-wingers and the conservatives were always like, who cares if they just have all the music and the cinema and the TV? Like, that's just like, icing on the cake. And it's not. It's important because it forms a basis for your thinking in so many ways, especially during your formative years. And I think that's what the old drive has been by a lot of right-wingers, like with the Daily Caller and the Daily Wire and all these different organisations where they're trying to make their own, like they made their own Snow White movie, for example, which isn't, stupidly woke. And as Snow White acting like a woman in comfortable shoes, like ruining the entire story. It's a crazy time to be alive. But as I said, that's my thinking on it. I think they're overthinking it massively. Those old books, Just a Legend, he's just an old geezer who sees the world in black and white, and he always does the right thing. And you root for him and you want him to win, and then you think of all these characters you're talking about, every single one of them, you don't like them. You want the enemy to win. It's like Captain Marvel, insufferable, smug, rude bitch. Or any of these big, strong female characters in all the leads. Daisy Ridley in the new Star Wars, insufferable, smug bitch who's good at everything and rude as fuck. It's like there's at no point do you, literally, Daisy Ridley, you watch her for 20 minutes and you're like, please, just get Radar to come and cave her head in or something. Like, they make you root for the villain, don't they? Which is, it's so mad that they don't realise that that's a basic, like, because this is what I'm saying, you don't need to go to university. You know this when you talk to a 10-year-old boy. They want the goodies to win and the baddies to lose and everyone to be happy and it to be obvious who the baddie is. Like, a comically bad guy is at least sort of funny. Like the Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Yeah. Fucking brilliant. Carve your heart out with a spoon. That's good shit.
Well, that was an amazing performance from Alan Rickman.
Yeah, hamming
fucking love that movie.
Class. And Robin's like, 35. You watch it back now, don't you? I remember watching it as a bed and I thought it was mint. And I watch it back now and I'm like, why is this 35-year-old bloke with a mullet capering on a wall? It's kind of cringe.
Brilliant. It's fucking class. I took my family to Legoland a couple of weeks ago, and we were in they have all the themed sections. So there's the pirate section and the medieval section. They've got a themed medieval section, like
that was always the best
castles.
Yeah,
and we went over to the medieval section, and they were playing. Each section has its own music. So the pirate section has pirate music, and then when we went over to the medieval section, they were playing medieval music. So they were playing some like Vivaldi, Baroque music, and they played the theme tune to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves on the speakers.
Oh, yeah. Class.
Absolute banger of a tune.
Well, that's another difference in it as well. They didn't take themselves too seriously. I think now that they're all treating it like it's an integral part of politics, I mean, rightly so. But they don't they haven't got the humour anymore either. Like, again, I'm a wee bit older than you, but like in my generation, everyone loved Arnie. Like it was like, watch Terminator when I was like 8. And it went from there. And the whole reason his films were good is because they were undeniably entertaining. They didn't need to be clever. They didn't need to have like a deep, meaningful message. They were even funny in a good way. Like you've watched films like Total Recall, absolute classic. And his tongue's in his cheek. Arnie delivered those lines perfectly, where it's like he knows he's taking the piss, and it sort of works perfectly.
I was using footage from The Running Man in my last video, and The Running Man, it's a good movie. It's there's a few issues, like the ending is a little bit forced, but I was just when I was editing, I was thinking, fuck me, this movie is so much better than almost anything produced today.
Yeah,
almost
massively.
Everything, and it's not even of its time. It's not even a great movie, like considering the time it came out. There were far better movies coming out in and like around that same time. But it's just like you go back to the 90s and you pick a sort of second-rate movie, and it just blows everything today out of the fucking water. Because even when you get past the woke shit, and Hollywood are like the era of woke in Hollywood is over, there are lingering pieces of it, like in every sort of movie that comes, especially out of Disney, like you'll see it lingering there because the writers don't really know what to do. They don't know how to do anything else. Like in the Thunderbolts, which is the last Marvel movie, all the characters are either girl bosses or depressed men or clowns because they just can't write anything else, right? They just can't. It's a kind of hangover from the woke era. They can't get out of that mindset, even when they're not shoving fucking political messaging down your throat. You still have this kind of stink of woke in the air because the writers just can't get away from it. So that they have these broken down or clownish men because men can't just be, serious, interesting, entertaining characters. And it's like you said, you don't need to do anything fucking fun. No. I did a wee movie pitch at the end of it, and the bad guy is an organization that just tortures children in a big medical facility. Right. Yeah. And the good guys are just like a group of redemptive people who have fucked up in life and are going for a bit of redemption. That's it. It's not hard. It's not complicated
at all. That's what I'm saying. I feel like you could write a better film when you're 12. The problem is, as you correctly point out, they've moved on from being overtly punch you in the face about it, but they're still being like sort of handrailed by it. Like it's exactly spot on what you've said there. Sort of 7-8 years ago, it was as subtle as a punch in the face. You might as well just had Captain America like face the camera and go, "Hey kids, suck cocks." Like it was literally like that in your face. And what they've moved on to now though is subtle background machinations, but they're still getting trammeled by it. They can't have a strong, intelligent, capable man with no baggage. It's impossible. And that's what I'm saying. That's what all them class old stories that I grew up reading were all about. Like I said, Gemmell's once, Skilgannon and Waylander and Druss and all these great characters. They were all badasses. Like they were always switched on, always made great decisions. They were hard as nails. And you watch a hero now and they're like, God, I'm depressed. Why are they all depressed? I don't get that.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. Like people were praising the Thunderbolts and I was like, Jesus Christ, man, I get enough of that shite from all the other media. Everybody's depressed. Every fucking second ad I see on YouTube is BetterHelp, which is this fucking online therapy thing. And I'm like, would you for fuck's sake cheer me up? Do something fun and entertaining, not a pack of fucking mopes walking around on screen talking about how depressed they are. Fuck that.
Yeah, it's proper. As I said, it's mental. I just think it's crazy when a bootneck and just an ordinary normies like us basically could definitely put our finger on exactly what the problem is, and they haven't fixed it. And it brings me on to my theory about this, right? Because do you know how like they always said, it's fine, it's fine. They're going to university and they're studying bollocks, you know, like lesbian dance theory and all this shit. But it's fine. Once they get into the market, that'll sort them out because they'll have to get a real job and they'll have to grow up. And that didn't happen. What happened was they found jobs for them all. I was ranting about it at work yesterday to one of my co-workers, one of my employees, because I was telling her, I was like, you have to watch what you're doing. It's almost like the lasses getting a bit more trouble in corporate America now than the lads do because they know about the HR departments. But what they've done in corporate America now is all the companies, or even an Elon Musk company, are at the whims of the HR departments, and they rule with an iron fist. Like they'll come over. Sorry, go on.
Is this because of the company has to cover its arse in case of lawsuits, mostly?
Yeah. I've wrote a massive email, right? I mean, I haven't got the bottle to send it, but I'm thinking when I quit, I'm going to drop it in his inbox, in the big man's inbox, like a grenade. And I've compiled it. It's in my Gmail account. All the mad shit we've had to do, like mandatory. They make you do mandatory training about like HR bollocks. In fact, I could just show you the thing. It's in my Gmail. I'll have to have a look. But basically, it's stuff like microaggressions, all that shit. And they're all doing it. So like what they did was they found jobs for them. They didn't like throw them into the market and make them compete. They made jobs for them because the rich and the powerful are doing this shit. And I think it leads on to what my point was going to be, which is they don't care about the money. We all said all along, everyone likes money. They'll definitely, this woke shit won't take off because they care about the money. It's got legs. So at this point, they don't care about the money. When they were making Captain Marvel, the new one with Kamala Khan and Rambo, they knew it was going to bomb, but they made it anyway. So what I'm saying is it is like a cult. Like it's got legs because all the things we thought were going to happen, the markets had forced them out of the jobs and the markets had forced them out of entertainment. Didn't happen because they were like, you know what? Who cares about money? I believe in this project. I believe in it, so I'm going to do it. They must have known Snow White was going to bomb.
No, they didn't. They definitely... Snow White was supposed to be $1 billion movie because that movie was greenlit when those fucking abominable fucking live action remakes were at their head. Because those things, like the Lion King made $1 billion and the Beauty and the Beast made $1 billion, Aladdin made $1 billion. So those things were doing amazing numbers in the 2010s. And that's when they greenlit Snow White.
To get it done. I'm just saying, this stuff was on its way out by about 2020. Like, surely they must have been like, people don't like this shit. They started seeing the numbers for all the new woke Marvel stuff compared to the peak Marvel stuff from like a decade ago. And they must have known it was on their way out, but they still did it all anyway. Like, they must have knew.
I mean, trying to stop a Hollywood production is a bit like trying to turn the Titanic around. Once you're heading toward the iceberg, you're going to just fucking hit it. And there's not much you can do because it's a sunk cost fallacy and too many people are making too much money kind of thing. And you would need, the only way to stop it is basically what David Zaslav did at Warner when he came in and he shit-canned the Batgirl movie, which was a very good decision financially. Like you can say, you know, from a pure art perspective, he should have let it go, but then he wouldn't get the tax write-off. And look, he's not an artist. He's a fucking businessman. That's what he was hired to do. And from a pure business perspective, he was right to do it because that movie was an absolute guaranteed bomb. And the best thing you can do is to just cut it off. Don't put another cent into it and take the tax write-off. He made more money for Warner than releasing that piece of shit ever would have. And from what I've seen and what I've heard about it, it would have just been another shitty, generic DC movie that would have been completely forgotten by now. Now, that's not to say that I don't think it should be released. I do think it should be released. I think that Warner should leak it. They can't release it officially because then they'll lose the tax write-off. But if it could be leaked, that'd be great. I'd fucking love to do a review on it. But still, like that's what you need to stop production. You would need someone to come in and be that brutal with it. But if it's in the pipeline, it's very hard, and it's already in production. It's hard to stop.
So do you think my theory is wrong then? Do you think they do care about the money? Because
I mean, I know a bit about corporate. I mean, you've worked in it, so you know obviously a lot more than me. But until very recently, I was teaching careers and jobs, among other things, like for a living. So I would teach a careers course where I would teach kids. I say kids, but this is people who like their average age is like 19, 20. And they're heading off to university, and my job is to teach them how to write a resume, cover letter, a LinkedIn profile, and how to go and apply for jobs and what to expect and things like that. So I did a bunch of research, and the HR stuff, like bringing people in to teach them about microaggressions, it's so that the company is covered legally in case an employee is harassed. So, for example, if you grab some girl's arse in your job, the girl can sue the company. But if the company has done this stupid fucking microaggression training or sexual harassment training, they can turn around and say, no, it's got nothing to do with us. We made him sit through those sexual harassment seminars. So if he still grabbed a girl's arse, it's all on him. So it's to cover themselves legally. So
that makes sense.
It costs less money to give themselves that kind of legal insurance. It's basically a form of legal insurance. It costs them less money to do that than it does to these lawsuits would never get to court. They would have to do an out-of-court settlement. And once word got around, hey, Karen, you got 200 grand because she accused some fellow of work of group on her arse, that's going to open the floodgates, and then every fucking bint in the office is going to have a sexual harassment. It happened with Me Too in Hollywood. You know what I mean? A lot of Me Too was just women looking money, just looking for an easy cash payout. So, he fucking, groped my arse at a party when he was drunk 20 years ago, But if he gives me 300 grand, I won't take him to court. That was a lot of the Me Too movement was just that.
100%. It's nailed on that. That's not even just an opinion. That is nailed on. Some of those birds who accused Bill Cosby, for example, they went on like 20 dates with him. I was like, what do you mean 20 dates? So he diddled you on the first one and he went on another 19. If I stayed around my mate's house, if I went on a piss with a mate of mine on a Friday night and I slept on his couch, and when I woke up Saturday morning, I had his balls in my mouth, I wouldn't be going on the piss with him ever again. So, this is just an undeniable fact, isn't it? That, again, just because 9 out of 10 of them are gold diggers doesn't mean of course he's still guilty, and of course he should be punished. But we don't have to do this again, this all-in, no shades of grey bollocks. 9 out of 10 of the women who are accused, the likes of Weinstein and Cosby, are shameless.
That's actually
prostitutes.
The number you just gave is provably an underestimation. When they were doing the Weinstein trial, there were like 20 women that came onto the stand, and they accused Harvey Weinstein of all sorts of shit. Candace Owens did a series on this, and what happened is woman after woman after woman would come onto the stand and say, oh yeah, he did this to me and he forced me down and he made me fondle his testicles. And then Harvey's defense lawyer would get up and say, he forced you to fondle his testicles. Yes, he forced me to fondle his testicles. It was terrible. And there were like 20 women that said this. Yeah. And every single one of them was lying, because Harvey Weinstein doesn't have exterior testicles. He has a very rare genetic condition, and because of it, in the 90s, he had a surgery to place his testicles inside his upper thigh.
He doesn't have big swinging plums.
He doesn't have swinging plums. The surgeons put them inside his thigh, apparently. So that must look weird. So there was just woman after woman. There were only 2 women out of the many that testified that weren't provably lying. And both of them, when you look into their testimony, were probably lying. Yeah. So that's the fucking meat. Like, it's actually more than 9 out of 10 when you actually look, if you're going to go by the Weinstein numbers.
But this leads on to what you were saying earlier about this, like, no shades of grey in the arguments where they go, oh, so you want to kill old people. That what happened there is emblematic of the whole thing of debate nowadays, thanks to the internet. Like, if you politely disagree slightly, they instantly go for you. You've got, like, lifelong lefties, like J.K. Rowling. And the second she slightly disagrees with them on one thing, she's left wing. And then on one thing she goes, oh yeah, but you shouldn't have birds in blokes in birds' prisons, they go, oh yeah, so you want to kill babies? It's like, where did you get that from? It's
no,
mental,
it's
innit?
you want to commit genocide against trans people. That was the line that they would go with.
I
It's
know.
like, because you don't want men with big, hairy bollocked men in women's prisons, and they will rape the prisoners. Of course,
Of course they
they'll
will.
fucking rape them.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't want them doing that, you want to commit genocide against trans people.
I know, it's mental, isn't it? And that's what I'm saying there. Like, if we even attempted to have this, like, if I made a video about it, being the totally reasonable comment that I made, they'd be like, oh, so you want men to be able to rape women? It's like, no, of course, I'm saying the ones that he did rape, yeah, of course he should be in prison. But it still means loads of them were shameless gold diggers. There's the whole thing with, what's her name? Rose McGowan. Apparently, right, this is what I think Paula told me. It was like, she basically went in the room with him and he went, yeah, there's a lot of people competing for this part. However, if you hum the national anthem with me balls in your mouth, oh no, he hasn't got balls. If you give me a chew, I'll give you a 3-contract film deal. I'll put you in like the 3 Scream films or some shit. And she went, that's just being a high-class prostitute. Now, I'm not saying that it's not deeply immoral, because yes, in an ideal world, nothing like that happens and the best person always gets the job. But in a pragmatic, real world, you understand it happens and it's deeply immoral, but it's not something you can crush with the force of the law. You just can't. Nepotism and cronyism has always existed and it always will. And you can't even be that angry about it, because this is what I've said. You remember when you read about people like Jack Munro, that charmless, talentless food blogger? She got in the fire department because her dad was the chief of police, chief of the fire department, so she gets in. And people go mental about this type of stuff, but we all know, I always say, if I was in a position like that and my son wanted a job, I'd probably get them a job. Like, it does happen. And that kind of thing, yeah, okay, if you live in a fairy world where you can just somehow teleport the greatest actress in the world into the position, wonderful. But in the real world, if there's a slightly better actress, but there's one who can do a capable job, and she was willing to pull fucking Harvey Weinstein off, she's probably going to get the job. But it isn't sexual assault. It's like a little bit of gentle coercion. But I just don't see how you can have a system in place where you can prosecute people like that for rape. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're basically offering them money. It is like being a prosy.
It is. And the feminists who will want men to go down for engaging in transactional sex are complete hypocrites, because they'll say things like, Harvey Weinstein and any man that has ever touched a woman on a casting couch should go to jail. But they'll also say sex work is work. Now, you can't have it both ways, right? Yeah, you can't, because if sex work is just work, then why can't it just be part of the everyday work of an Hollywood actress? Well, what did you do today, Kate? Oh, well, I did shot a scene, and then I gave the executive producer a blowjob because, I want to be in the next season of the show. And, that's just my work. Sex work is work and acting is work, and it's all just work. But the people who say sex work is work don't actually believe it, right? They know that it's just prostitution. And then they apply double standard when they want men to go down. It's complete bollocks. It's transactional sex. That's all it is. And the women who engage in it are fucking over the other women who won't engage in it.
Yeah, totally.
Right. But they get a free pass.
Yeah. I suppose ultimately it just boils down to hard-nosed pragmatism. Like, and again, because normal people like us chatting in the pub, this would be the same with the boozer, understand it all. Like, it's not good that the world's that way, but there's nothing you can do about it. It doesn't mean that Harvey Weinstein is as evil a predator as a random Somalian geezer who drags a random student down an alley and cuts her clothes off with a flick knife. It's just not. And I think it's that. It makes total sense that it aligns this way politically as well, the argument, because ultimately, if you really boil it down as simplistic as you can go, sort of communism and socialism is an idealistic ideology, and conservatism and sort of centrism is a pragmatic sort of ideology where you go, yeah, the system's not perfect. Of course, capitalism leaves some people behind, but it works all right for 95% of people, so it's the best we're going to get. And I think it's that hard-nosed pragmatism versus head in the clouds idealism. You can't tell me there's any way to stop saying to a lass, listen, that other girl's slightly better than you, but if you give us a gobble, I'll put you in, when such large amounts of money are at play. It basically is the best prostitution ever. Like, imagine how much money Rose McGowan got for 3-film deal. I bet your I'd suck his cock for fucking that much money. How much money would you get for a 3-movie deal? If you sign the contract, it's going to be millions, innit?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're dealing, when you think about the alternative for these women. So it's like, right, you can go and be a big star and become a millionaire, or you can fuck off back to, I don't know, Minnesota and go work in a cafe. That really is the options that, you know, a lot of these women in Hollywood and in places like this, that's the position they face. And here, the other thing is, like I said earlier, if they won't do it, there's a fucking line of girls a mile long who
and if
will.
You're a hard-bitten pragmatist, you'll do it. And again, once again, I'm the liberal in this situation because I'm not mega judging them. In fact, I've just said, if Rose McGowan's like 9 million for sucking a cock, I'd kick the door and be like, I'll do it for 8. I'd be haggling for his cock. So I'm saying, like, I'm not judging them. I understand why it happens, but don't take the money to have the long film career, wait 20 years like that shameless bitch did, and then come out at the end of it and go, oh my God, he's a horrific criminal. It's like you took the money.
Yeah, and by the way, that bitch, Rose McGowan, she actually turned on her former manager, Jill Messick, and slandered her and said she didn't support women or just, you know, one of these stupid platitudinal accusations that doesn't fucking mean anything. She just said she didn't support women. And this woman, this was at the height of the Me Too movement where they had the sort of the power of, I suppose you could call it the establishment zeitgeist behind them. They had the power of the establishment behind them and everybody fucking knew it. And your woman Messick couldn't take the heat and she killed herself because of this bitch McGowan. And Messick's family blamed McGowan for that. So McGowan's got blood on her hands. Like she's the shit that she is. I can't even say in your live stream because YouTube will nuke your fucking channel if I do.
Yeah, well, I've watched all your videos and I remember you covered it quite at great length about, I think it was women talking, or Mormon women talking or whatever it was. And you went into great detail about all the damage that sort of movement caused, the Me Too movement.
It was horrendous. That's just the tip of the iceberg, man. It goes way, like thousands of men just had their lives fucking ruined. Many more off themselves. Horrible stuff.
Horrible stuff. And she's going to be a ruthless mercenary because she's a shameless, brazen liar. This is what I'm saying. Like, if you're willing to do that, because once again, you have to twist your mind in knots trying to understand the arguments they're making because they always contradict themselves because they're totally shameless and they don't stand for anything. They always contradict themselves. It's inevitable of not having any principles. And that's a good example. If Rose McGowan, even if because now she's claiming to be moral and she's saying that her ex-manager never supported her, if she believed all the stuff that she said about Harvey Weinstein, she wouldn't have waited 20 years to come out.
Exactly.
She would have left the same day and said, every woman who goes near that man is in danger. And she'd have made it a life's mission to stop anyone else becoming a victim. To keep her mouth shut for 20 years means that, well, okay then, is he a monster or isn't he? Because if he is, you've just basically allowed him to victimize thousands of other women over a 20-year career. So what is it? Well, what's the truth of the matter? You know what I mean? And that's what it boils down to. They always tie themselves up in knots because they don't stand for anything, these people. They're just all about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing as well why the movement collapsed, because people did not want to be lectured by these fucking, these arrogant, condescending Hollywood types that have no moral fiber whatsoever and have no education and are going to be sanctimonious and morally condescend to the vast majority of the population after they've engaged in that behavior themselves. And people fucking knew it, and they weren't going to let these wankers talk down to them. So it was one of the many reasons that movement collapsed.
100%. And I always lecture my audience about that. I'm like, never let these people talk down to you, ever. Like, the fact that they're all so obsessed with being publicly woke as aggressively as they are honestly makes me genuinely think they must have skeletons in the closet like that would make Pol Pot blush. Like, they must have some dodgy shit that they're so obsessed with constantly painting themselves as positive in the real world. Makes me genuinely think that they've done awful things in the shadows because, as I've said about like normal people talking in the pub, like you'll put yourself down, you'll make a joke about punching a nun or something, you know, as part of a quip. But these ones are so morally condescending all the time. Like, if you even make a joke, oh, no, that wasn't a joke. You really do want to, be a baby raper. They behave that way because I genuinely believe they're, like, awful people. And I've told this to all the birds online. Like, if some bloke's loudly and obnoxiously calling himself a feminist, and if I say something, because I say sexist things all the time, they'll go, oh my God, this means that you're basically a rapist. And I'm like, no. The fact that I'll make normal quips or, slap my missus's ass and go, put the kettle on, love, means that I'm like not worrying about the outward appearance of very normal behaviour. Whereas because you're self-policing everyone, yourself and everybody else, I genuinely think someone who partakes in that aggressively online with a pussy hat on and an ally t-shirt, I genuinely think that bloke is highly likely to have several teenagers chained up in his basement or something. Like, I honestly do. I think it's an indictment of the person's character if they're not normal left-wing people, I understand, but aggressively obnoxiously woke, who instantly do the whole thing about, so you said this, so you basically want to be a granny killer. I think those people have got skeletons in the closet, and I think that's why they're obsessed with, like, virtue signaling publicly all the time. No sense of humour.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Wankers. Anyway, that was a 50-minute rant. It was meant to be about film, but I suppose it makes sense, and they're all linked. You end up sort of segueing into politics anyway. We'll do one political story I want to run by you before you leave, because this video is great and it really made me hate Emily Maitlis. Have you seen this? Hang on.
Yeah, I've seen this.
So you've seen this, right? So we can talk about it. I'll play it for like a minute so the audience can watch it, and then we'll talk about it, because I have a lot to say about this. I think that I think Emily Maitlis is far too intelligent, and she is. She's not thick. I think she's far too intelligent, far too well-read, and far too aware of the numbers to be ignorant about any of it. And I think, therefore, she's being totally disingenuous, and she's just, once again, sacrificing little girls on the altar of a political ideology that's poison. But let's listen to it for a minute, just so people get the gist of it, and then we'll talk about it for a bit.
I'm telling you that you are focusing on Pakistani grooming gangs because probably you're racist and you don't believe that there are white perpetrators of the same crime. I want to talk about grooming gangs. You've launched your own inquiry. Alexis J, who, as you know, spent 7 years on a child abuse probe, says she's very unhappy with the politicisation of child sexual exploitation done, in her words, a very uninformed way. She's talking about you.
Well, she's welcome to her own opinion, as is everybody. I believe in a Britain where everybody should be able to express exactly what they want to.
Why is it funny to politicise child exploitation?
I don't have any problem. I say she's welcome to her own opinion.
But why is it funny?
But it's not funny. I mean, my driver for the rape gang inquiry is that, having looked into it, and it's something which I think a lot of people in this country probably were blissfully unaware of.
No, I don't think they were. Andrew Norfolk,
that's
who's the Times reporter.
That's your opinion. But I have picked up the mantle, and as you know, I don't call them grooming gangs. I call it Pakistani rape gangs, because 95% of these people are Pakistanis, and very often from a particular part of Pakistan.
That's absolutely not
true.
That's
so it is true. It is true, Emily. But anyway, let's
2023. I'm going to tell you this.
Park that.
So now she just whips out the numbers and she goes, according to the Times, and then tells a load of lies. And so my opinion is, basically, she knows the score. She's totally aware of all the statistics and the data. And she's well aware that the reason Rupert and me, and probably you and anybody else who's got a fully functioning brain, gets so angry about this is not because, like she said at the start there, like, you seem to think there's no, like, white sex offenders. Again, this juvenile bollocks. Like, nobody ever thinks or says that. But they do it knowing that the reason we're angry is not because we think there's no such thing as a white diddler. It's because they don't have advocates for them. As soon as a white diddler turns up, all the people, including all the prisoners, go, kill an ons. That's basically what happens. But when they do it, as Peter McLaughlin outlined in his book, they have advocacy groups. They have judges, lawyers, people who share the faith generally, the Mayor of London, loads of MPs, and everybody basically going, oh yeah, but I mean, he's traumatized, or he can't speak English, or he didn't understand, or he's from a different culture. And that's how it got ignored for 25 years. Like, they don't ignore white guy grooming gangs, they don't ignore male rapists from England, but they genuinely did ignore those grooming gangs because of the fear of sounding racist. And even people like Jack Straw covered this and said, Jack Straw said it 20 years ago. He said people were afraid to say anything because they were scared of getting called racist. But Emily there thinks that we all reckon there's no such thing as a white diddler. So what are your thoughts on it?
The loathing that I feel for that woman when I watch that interview is hard to express, because she's trying to drag Britain back to the social conditions that caused the mass rape of hundreds of thousands or possibly millions of English girls over the course of decades. No one knows the numbers. The numbers are so fucking vast, no one actually knows. It's at least hundreds of thousands of girls that this happened to. And do you know why it happened? Because wankers like Emily Maitlis would call anybody who said anything bad about foreign communities, whether they were Pakistani or whoever, they would just be called racism. And that this was at a time where being called a racist actually carried a bit of weight. Like, you go order a fucking coffee, you get called a racist today, do you know what I mean? Doesn't mean anything. Like, she called Rupert Lowe racist like 4 times in that interview. No one gives a fuck. It doesn't mean anything. No. It's like, yeah, I'd roll over, I'd get called racist 3 times before I get out of bed. Do you know what I mean? It's daily life now. Everybody's been called racist. You voted for Brexit, you're racist. You vote for Conservatives, so it doesn't mean anything.
No.
Vote for Conservative, you racist, Jesus Christ, and see what happened there. Anyway. But so she's trying to recreate the social conditions that caused the rape gangs in the first place. Basically, whereby if you say anything about this, if you try to investigate this, you're a racist. It's like, Emily, you fucking moron. You are the reason this happened. Not you specifically, but people like you who are willing to just scream racist at anyone who wants to look into this. You caused this. You're the reason the police covered it up. You're the reason the police called the girls who were being raped, what did they call them, Paki shaggers? Dismissively.
Yeah.
And then they didn't look into the allegations. They're the reason why the schools would allow Pakistani men to pull up outside of schools and recruit for their rape gangs. You're the reason that this was ignored by police and government and MPs and constables, because none of them wanted to be called racist because of you. You did that. And you're trying to pull us back into the same social conditions and make it all happen all over again. Oh man, the loathing. She's just the spawn of Satan, and she doesn't even realize it. She thinks she's the good guy.
That was a good rant. That was you channeling the energy I like in your reviews. It's totally true. I mean, on about them, as you rightly said there, it's not just ignoring it; it's covering for them. Like in Peter McLaughlin's book, there's a bit where he says this bloke, and the testimonies in this big report that they covered up. She said, as she's noshing this bloke off when she's 12. A police car comes and winds the window down and goes, "What's going on in here?" And you've got the Puma Trackie and his mate and this 12-year-old giving him a chew. And he winds the window down. He says to the copper, "Oh, she's sucking me off, mate." And they both start laughing. And the copper shakes his head and drives off because they've been told you don't do anything about it. And again, it's not a conspiracy theory. The circular was sent round under Gordon Brown saying, "We believe these girls have made an informed sexual decision, and it's not our business to get involved." And anybody who's got fucking 2 brain cells to rub together knows that 10 and 11 and 12 and 13-year-old girls can't make informed choices about the sexual decisions. If they could, it wouldn't be illegal to shag an 11-year-old because you're going to go, "Oh, I mean, I give her some Haribo, so she's happy to do it." Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a fucking crazy time to be alive when this is still, like, in the shadows almost. And
well, they want to keep it in the shadows. Like the Emily Maitlis and her ilk, they want this thing shut the fuck down. They don't want it brought up. They want it brushed back the fuck under the carpet and kept there.
Yeah, it's disgraceful. Find your way about us, do some super chats. If I don't get called racist 5 times a week, I've got laryngitis, which is a good one. And Louise Owen said, Sam Samworth, I don't know him. The Real Porridge reports on prison officers fighting back. at them in the clink after the attacks. Oh yeah, and no reports on that either. Again, it is a global conspiracy to hide this stuff, isn't it? Like, and even on YouTube, as we know, they magnify left-wing voices and the shadow ban and silence and many times outright ban. I think I've had about 4 in the sort of 4 year. I average about 1 a year.
I enjoy your dictionary of euphemisms that you've had to come up with, like Alan's lads giving 2 girls an unscheduled sex session. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You have
Surprise
to do these,
sex. Yeah.
These verbal gymnastics to get around the YouTube regulations, so the algorithm doesn't notice you.
I wish I knew this. I wish I knew this like 3-4 years ago, because my channel's only grew in the last in the last 18 months. And it's since I started using endless euphemisms, because they're watching, aren't they? Definitely.
I've always thought of it as kind of like trying to score in a football match, because I knew some channels that I really liked that got nuked, especially during COVID. A lot of channels were nuked during COVID. And I didn't really like the sort of martyr approach they took. Their attitude was, well, if YouTube destroyed the channel, then so be it. I'm going to speak truth to power. And it's like, lad, people like a martyr for about 2 minutes and then they forget about them. Yeah. This is what you're kind of saying is, I'm unhappy that I don't have an open net. This is the reality of the political atmosphere we're dealing in. It's like you can't just shoot the ball at an open net and score a goal. You have to pass it around. You have to dribble it a bit. You have to figure out how to get it past the defenders. And the referee's also against you. Do you know what I mean? That's the game. You've got to play the game. You've got to be smart about it.
Makes total sense, doesn't it? And we've obviously got a lot in common, because it's back to that hard-nosed pragmatism. Like, I get tortured by the full-blown racists online who have a go at me and say, oh my God, you're just a grifter. I was like, no, you can sincerely disagree with you, mate. That's what happens. Or, I can't believe you're still on YouTube. Or, what's the point in voting for reform? It's like, listen, you can live in one of these purity cycles and think, if everything's not perfect, then I'm not going to take the goal. But I think hard-bitten pragmatists like you and obviously me are just like, you work with what you got. You work with what you've got.
Yeah,
Peter Hitchens has been against it for 30 years. He's always arguing with everybody. You work with what you got. There's no point in spitting your dummy out and just, like I said, I always try and discourage anyone from political violence. They try and paint you as a savage when you're not woke. But I always tell everybody, to me, if you take it upon yourself to get violent, you've failed because you've walked into the trap. They want you to throw a brick at the copper. They want you to do that. You've got to use humour to make. This is what my mantra is. You laugh about even the most depraved shit they get up to, because humour's like my sword and shield. I'm not religious. I haven't got the armour of God. I've just got my sense of humour. And no matter what they do to me, I'll laugh and I'll take the piss out of them mercilessly. But there's no point in trying to make yourself a martyr. What's the point? At least if we stay on here and we try to work around it and we, cynically and pessimistically play with the system and use a lot of euphemisms, maybe every day I'll change one mind. Like, it's better than walking away from the game altogether.
Yeah, and you're right about people who say, Nigel's not our guy and reform's not the party. And it's like, you're letting the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Exactly.
We know that reform aren't perfect. We know that Nigel's a bit establishment and he doesn't always say the right things and everything like that. But he's trying to get the fucking normies on side. The normies are idiots. They fucking voted Tony Blair into power for no good reason. They kept the Tories in power. These are the fucking people you're trying to deal with. They're not the best human material, to put it mildly, okay? You have to appeal to the normies if you want to get in. And the only chance, right? It's not going to be, see these fucking idiots that say things like, it's time for Britain to rise up and fight. It's like, if every single one of the sort of, the right wingers in Britain was armed, right? Even if they were armed with like small arms, they wouldn't stand a queer's chance in Palestine of succeeding in some sort of armed revolution. No. They wouldn't stand a chance. And this obviously considerably better than me because you're a military man. It's like, there is no armed response to this. That's ludicrous. That's fucking ridiculous. There's only a political response. And reform are literally the last gasp of a hope that Britain has of not becoming a third world slum. All right?
100%.
And we're not asking for perfect. You're not going to get the fucking 1950s back where it's all beautiful and, you know, you can finally go for a walk at night everywhere over the country. You're always going to have problems now. The country's never going to be perfect. The damage has been done and it's never going to be fully undone. But you can at least have a livable country if you start trying to fix the damage now. It can be livable again. It can be decent, but you can't. Reform are the beginning of that process. They're not the be all and end all, but they are the beginning of the process.
Great little speech. That's a good time to end. I totally agree with you. I use the phrase enemy of the good plenty myself. And as I've said, ultimately, if Farage turns out to just be another weasel and do nothing, we've lost nothing. We're back to where we were. We're back, which is here. I was like, you might as well, at least for reform, of give us a ghost of a chance. Maybe we've got a chance. I'll take a ghost of a chance over none at all. And your point about the military is well made, because I used to laugh about that when Obama was in. And the right-wing Republican Americans have these rallies where there's like 50 blokes with rifles. And I was like, oh, yeah. I'm sure the Apache gunship pilots are shitting themselves. You know, like, what are you going to do? Stuff like that. Anyway, all right, mate, it was a pleasure. I always enjoy talking to you. We'll have to do it in person. I'm going to start doing a lot more jet setting next year. I reckon I can wrap my job in about a year's time. I've been ploughing all my salary into the company share options since I got there. And I'm fingers crossed that the genius billionaire is going to pull out the bag. But yeah, we'll have to have a pint in person one of these days. Thanks for coming on as always. I always enjoy it. I plugged you in the chat. If you haven't watched Despot's channel, go and have a look. The link's in the comments. Definitely the best film critic on YouTube. Better than The Critical Drinker, in my slightly biased opinion. Probably because I prefer the Northern Irish to the Scots. And yeah, I hope your channel keeps growing, mate. I'll talk to you soon, no doubt.
All right. Thanks for having me on, man. And thanks to everybody for listening. Right, bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Ladies and gents, he's off. And I am as well. I've got stuff to do. Get yourself an Alan Snack Bar t-shirt if you want. I just put a link in the comments. Find your way ban. What's he got? Anyone know what Lou's OnlyFans page is called? Asking for a friend. Don't ask me. I definitely do not advocate using OnlyFans. It will rot your brain. And frankly, you're a bit of a sad bastard if you're over the age of about 21 and you're still looking at shit like that on the internet. Oh yeah, but I do advocate for getting yourself a nice hot pink Alan Snack Bar t-shirt for your missus. The link's in the description. $16. That's a bargain, isn't it? Ditch Redbubble. I've ditched them. The links are going to be on all my old videos, but I don't like Redbubble. I get about £1 off a t-shirt I sell off Redbubble. I think these guys give me about $6 if I sell a shirt. So that's pretty good, isn't it? Also, I am definitely planning on doing a live meet this year. I did a dry run a few months back to make sure that if I travelled on a US passport, that Keir Starmer's stormtroopers weren't going to bend me over a deck chair and then roger me in Heathrow Airport. And it went quite well. So I'm intending to come over and do a live event at some point. It would be hoofing if everyone there rocked up with an Alan Snack Bar t-shirt. so get yourself one. And I'll see you all, hopefully, in the UK at some point, probably August, September, I'm thinking. Whenever I can make it work around work. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm not here tomorrow, hence the early stream. Got to go do some stuff with my missus. So, yeah, I'm going to be away for the weekend. Enjoy your Friday night. Have a drink. Love life. Keep laughing at the raving lunatics that lord it over us. And I'll see you all on Monday. All right. Have a good weekend. Keep smiling. Toodle pip. Cheers.